this been my favorite artist since I can remember, right?
All
So
right.
just end
I
up
mean, light skinned dudes got to hang together. You
gotta
know what I
stick
mean? Y'all
together,
got y'all got
man.
to stick together,
We
right? I
got we
got you.
gotta we gotta
I
stick
got you. I
together.
got you.
So fast forward, I just end up this is how life works. I just end up in Toronto. I end up here, you know what I'm saying? I've been hearing I look like him since I was 15 years old. So it's just funny, right? And
What's a perk of being down with Drakesky with Champagne Pappy?
uh
Then you go to Wichita, you do your thing. NBA draft rolls around. They don't call your name.
right,
They don't call your name.
right.
How how'd that make you feel, man?
Oh, I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken, man. You think about really 22 years of my life dedicated to the sport. The way I was raised and the way that I grew up, everything in my world revolved around basketball. That was our way out. That was, first of all, my way to get a free education. And second of all, this is how I'm going to take care of my family. So, mind you, I've been playing well against all of these guys that I'm seeing
Mm-hmm.
their names getting called. I had one of the top college careers out of anybody in my class. Um, I played well. I played well against other guys, but I just didn't match the eye test and I didn't have the measurables. So I had a good feeling going into the draft that there was a chance I wouldn't get drafted. So it wasn't
Mm,
that much of a surprise. You know, my agent,
okay.
he kind of prepped me for it. But at the same time, I was just devastated because, you know,
You still want it to happen.
that's part of the dream that
Yeah.
you don't plan for. You don't plan to not get drafted.
Right.
When you're at home and you're working on your game or you sleeping, you have dreams. You don't think like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go undrafted. You dream about putting the hat on and shaking the commissioner hand. So I wasn't really prepared in that regard. But you know, my ultimate goal was to have a long NBA career. I didn't really care about draft night that much. That was just the beginning of the story.
I could dig. So you knew you was going to make your way even if it wasn't by draft. Because I was going to ask you, did you feel like, man, like some dudes, they don't get drafted. It's like, is this it? Like,
Yeah. So
am I going
so
somewhere else?
I never
Like,
really knew, you know what I mean, up until maybe like 2 days before the draft, we started having conversations. And then that's when they got explained to me, like, okay, these guys in the first round, their contracts look like this. The end of the first round, their contracts look like this. All of those guys you see get picked in the second round, a lot of them money is not guaranteed.
right,
Half of them may get sent to Europe or, you know, to the G League or whatever the case
right.
may be. And so that opened my eyes a little bit to say, okay, it's not only about getting your name called, it's about trying to position yourself in a way to make a roster because that's
Yeah,
all that matters at the end of the day.
yeah,
There's guys that get drafted every year that won't make it through the year. And
that's right.
so once I started to understand the business of it, it really made me hungrier and just made me go harder and say, okay, now I got to find a way to make an imprint when I get my chance.
So you had more than two chips at that point. You said you was going into it. You had two chips. You had more than two chips
Yeah,
by that time, huh?
no doubt. Yeah, they still there too.
True.
I just carry them around with me every day.
I saw one of the posts your brother had, and it was, man, we came a long way. I think he
Yeah,
was getting off of a PJ,
yeah,
and he was like, we went from what we went. It sounded like the muck of the mud
yeah.
to now we doing it. We getting it the right way.
Hmm.
So now let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. How did you come up? What were the struggles that you guys had to endure? You mentioned being outside of Chicago,
Yeah.
but what were the struggles that y'all were dealing with when y'all was coming up? I know the father part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to go down any roads you're not comfortable going down. But I like to give these kids
Yeah.
perspective.
No
You know what I
doubt.
mean?
No
So
doubt.
talk to me about the beginning.
Yeah, it's important, and I've grown to learn how to open up and share it because I've learned that I'm not the only person with this story. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's millions of people with these stories. So just to go all the way back to the beginning, which was early as I can remember, my biological father was killed when I was 5 years old. So now it's me and my oldest brother, Darnell, and it's my mom and my grandparents. And, you know, she making do with what she can, two jobs. We were kind of living like more on the white side of town where
Mm-hmm.
her family was from. So from maybe like
And your mom is white.
mom is white, right?
So
My
now
mom is
you
white.
got you got you got the light skinned babies,
Yeah,
and y'all on the white side of
yeah,
town.
yeah. She trying to
And
figure.
you ain't that old, but
Right,
you ain't old enough where you know.
right. No doubt, no
Yeah,
doubt. So I didn't experience like overt racism. You know what I mean? But I still got the like I was out of place a little bit in a
right.
lot of
Like
certain
trying to
areas.
figure
You
it
know what
out,
I'm saying?
right?
So I had to learn how to play both sides, and I think from maybe 5 years old to like 8 or 9, I think when my mom eventually met my stepdad, they moved in. We moved in with them, and so she went. My dad kind of was making it do what it do. He was running around trying to make amends for his family, and she kind of went from that to a cop. So
Okay.
she got with a cop, and my stepdad is like a military cop discipline. So we kind of went from like running around, the white side of town having fun, and we staying out as long as we want to. My mom,
Yeah.
she's just trying to make it work for us to like discipline,
Discipline.
regiment.
Right.
You know what I mean? You gotta be on point. You gotta, like it was just a different environment. So I got to see both sides, and the schools that I went to and grew up in at the time, it just felt like I was a normal kid. But looking back, it was some rough circumstances and things that I'm not sure I would want my kids to have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So I seen a lot at an early age, and I think it just toughened me up a little bit, hardened me up a little bit, gave me a unique perspective on life because I got to see poor white, poor black. I got to see middle class black, and then eventually, go to college. Now I see white money, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
things. So I got to experience a lot of that, and it just gave me a great perspective on life. But one thing that my parents really embedded in us was like we had to be above average. We couldn't be average, and I think that they instilled that. My parents sacrificed their entire lives to make sure that me and my brothers got educations and we played sports. We didn't have to work. We didn't have to pay
Mm-hmm.
bills as teenagers. A lot of my friends did. A lot of my friends had to make ways for themselves and as teenagers to help their families, and we got to be kids, and that's one thing that I'll never be able to repay them for. So,
I got two more questions for you. Now I'm gonna let you ride, dog.
yeah,
First question, or two. You didn't pass the eye test because of your height and all that growing up, whatever, hoops. But then you make it to Toronto and you're playing for the Raptors, and you kind of look like Drake, dog.
yeah,
So now you all of a sudden now you passing the eye test.
yeah,
Like,
no doubt.
what's the relationship like with Drake? And how funny is that you got iconic dude that's like I'm certain he's a friend
Yeah,
and super cool with you based off of everything y'all got going on with the team and
yeah.
stuff like that created an opportunity to bond. But what's that relationship like? And do y'all ever try to do stunt double type action, man?
Yeah, so it's crazy, right? Because I remember being maybe I was a freshman in high school or sophomore in high school. His first tape came out, and I was running it around, sharing it to everybody. Nobody really had heard of him at the time. Like, yo,
All
y'all
right,
gotta listen to this dude. Like, this been my favorite artist since I can remember, right?
all
So I
right.
just end
I
up
mean, light skinned dudes got to hang together. You
gotta
know what I
stick
mean? Y'all
together,
got y'all
man.
got to stick together,
We
right? I
got we
got you.
gotta we gotta
I
stick
got you. I
together.
got you.
So fast forward, I just end up. This is how life works. I just end up in Toronto. I end up here. You know what I'm saying? I've been hearing I look like him since I was 15 years old. So it's just funny, right? And
Uh-huh.
he's such a great dude that he played into it. You know what I mean? He kind of put his arm around me a little bit, and we just were able to develop a nice friendship over the years. I'm going on my 7th year there, so yeah, he's just a cool dude, man. He means so
So
much to that city
yeah,
and to Canada as a country, and
yeah.
even to our team. That's a good ambassador to have
Give a
for
perk, man. What's a perk of being down with Drakesky with Champagne Pappy?
uh I mean I'll just say he's very generous.
All
Like,
right.
what I mean, he's very generous. He's moving pretty heavy. So,
Yeah.
if you find yourself in the same vicinity, you know what I mean? He's a very generous dude. He's a good dude.
Word.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah,
Word.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Last question, number 2. What does Fred VanVleet Sr., when it's all said and done, when they sitting there and they saying their final, here are my goodbyes, here's how I remember him.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you want to know? What do you want to hear being said in that moment? What's your legacy?
I think my legacy is being a stand-up dude, first and foremost, a good guy, a stand-up guy, a family man, somebody who took his family from where they was to where they are now, created opportunities for everybody involved, and just took the name from, being nothing to a staple, and really just changing families' lives. Like, I'm gonna tell this quick story before we get out of here. So my high school basketball coach, very religious and spiritual guy, and he sat me down. I was having trouble being a leader. I was cussing my friends. Like I was terrible. I was a bad teammate. And he made me read the Book of Psalms. And somehow within that time frame, I just remember it hit me like I found what my purpose was. And my purpose was to take my gifts and take it as far as I can. And with that, you're gonna create change that helps so many people. And it used to be like, I want to say the world, and then I got a little older, I understood that's not realistic. So I'm gonna just save my world, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna put everybody in position, and we're gonna live long, happy, healthy lives, and take care of these babies that we got, and keep it moving forward.
And that's the legacy.
Yes, sir.